everyone. Welcome to another movement meditation. No, lockdown lessons. Get confused. Today's lesson is going to be a little bit weird, a little bit interesting, and hopefully maybe a little bit profound in the way that you experience yourself in a new way. So I'm looking forward to teaching it. The subject again is going to be on what we've been kind of doing this whole week on the pelvis. And I'm just going to get my little friend again, because today's lesson we're going to talk about this space here. This space here, where the femur, the ball of the femur, the head of the femur joins in with the pelvis. The anatomical name for this space is the acetabulum, or the hip socket. And it's a relatively important part of the body. If you think about, the majority of our waking life, we are moving around in some shape or form, and obviously that discounts sitting. But the majority of, as we're walking, for example, every time we walk, every time we step, there's force transferred through from the foot through the bones of the legs into this specific point of the pelvis. And this is what's important in kind of keeping an upright organization of the body. So it's a really kind of important part of the body and worth spending a bit of time on. Great. So what I'd like you to do initially is just to find a comfortable place to sit. Have you, if you can, sit forward on the chair. And also, again, if you can, have both feet on the floor. Right, my mic is all the way over there. That's going to sound a lot better. Okay, so once you've got both feet on the floor, I want you just to very gently begin to move your right leg, your right knee inwards and outwards. Taking your right knee inwards, taking your right knee outwards. And in fact, at the same time, if you just rest your right hand down on the side of your pelvis and see if you can feel, there's a bone, in fact, I'll show you. This part of the femur is called the Greater Trichanter. And you can feel that, you can palpate that. If you touch the side of your leg, you can feel the bony structure right at the top of the leg. As you move your knee in and out, can you feel the way that that part of you is kind of turning and changing? You can feel this kind of like torsion or twisting within that part of you. So just do that a few times, just to feel it. Have your hand there. Take your knee inwards and outwards. And just feel kind of how the head of the femur is kind of being organized by this movement within the hip socket. Once you've done it a few times on that side, try it on the left side. Again, take your left hand and place it just down on the side of the pelvis so that you can kind of feel the area where the leg joins in with the pelvis. And just make that movement, the knee just kind of tilting outwards and tilting inwards. Good morning, Louise. Thanks for tuning in. Tilting the knee inwards and slightly outwards, and just kind of feeling for yourself, like what's happening right in that hip socket. How is the hip socket being encouraged to move by the knee moving? And can you feel that with your hand? Good. All right, so that's just like an initial taste of that particular area of the body. Now what I'd like you to do is just close your eyes. And this is where it's going to get a little bit funky. So hope you're all feeling okay and prepared this morning. If you close your eyes and very gently with your eyes closed, I'd like you to begin to take your eyes over to the left, back to the middle and over to the right. And just do this in a very gentle way. You're not kind of going, it's not like a stretching of the eyes. You're not taking your eyes to the end of their range. You're just very gently going, you're traveling the eyes in the eye socket, a little to look to the left and a little to look to the right. And as you do that movement, can you feel the the sense of the eye moving within the eyelid. So the eye has a particular shape to it. It's actually not completely round. It sticks out a little bit at the front. And you can notice if someone's got their eyes closed and they're moving their eye left and right, you can notice the pupil moving across the eyelid. But is it something that you can feel as well? The eyelid itself does have some sense receptors, I believe. So it should be able to feel like these slight movements underneath it. Good. And now, instead of looking forwards and feeling the movement across the eyelid, is it possible for you to look down, So you're sitting normally, you're not taking your head down, it's just with the eyes. You're going to look down and explore kind of this left and right movement, but with the eyes looking down. Exploring the left and right movement with the eyes looking down. If anything's unclear, please write in the comments if anyone wants to say hi as well, so I know who's watching. So as you take your eyes left and right, just see if you can keep breathing, see if you can kind of keep a continuous sensation of smoothness of the eye as you're looking over to the right and then down and then over to the left. And see if you can kind of map out the space of the eye socket. It may be easiest for you to do this with one eye initially, but it's okay if you want to do it with two as well. Morning. Hi. So taking the eye down a few times left and right, looking down, and then let the eye rest for a moment. If you're doing two, let the eyes rest. And then when you're ready, start to look up and left and right. So now you're going to look up towards the ceiling, and then you're going to take your eyes a little to the left and a little to the right. And just see if you can kind of in some way begin to map out the shape of the eye socket. So we did forwards, feeling the movement against the eyelid, and then down, feeling the kind of underside of the eye socket. And now you're looking up, and it's almost like you're using this kind of like little bit of the eye that sticks out around the pupil to just kind of feel or track the shape of the eye socket. Hi, good morning. So as you move your eyes in that way, feeling kind of that inner space, exploring the inner space of the eye socket, see if you can kind of maybe move your attention between the right eye and the left eye. Do it a few times with your focus on one side, a few times with your focus on another side. Morning, Annette. Okay, and then the last one is to look backwards. All right, and this is not really possible. So you're going to have to use your imagination that when the eyes are pointing forwards, you're sensing the back of the eye, and moving as you move the eyes left and right, that you're kind of bringing your attention to the back of the eye and feeling the back of the eye socket. And again, move your attention between the left eye and the right eye so that you can kind of like make sure that you've covered both. You've kind of had a look at how the eye socket feels on the left, how the eye socket feels on the right. Good. Okay, have a little rest. Have a rest. So I told you this lesson was going to be interesting because now we're going to take that and explore the hip socket. So again, just move your right leg, your right knee, very gently in, very gently out. If you want to put your hand back there to cover the area of your pelvis and your leg and your upper leg, just so that you can feel that area where the hips, the top head of the femur is coming into the pelvis. And as you move the knee left and right, it's rotating. It's rotating in a specific way. So almost like the eye, as the eye is kind of moving left and right, there's a specific kind of movement or feeling within the eye socket. Okay. And then try it with the left side. Good. And just again, see if you can feel or like get some mental imagery of how the head of the femur, which if you need a visual representation of, I can get it in camera well, that as I move my knee left and right, the head of the femur is moving in a very specific way within the hip socket. So hopefully that's apparent to you. Okay. All right. So close your eyes again. And just come back to making a few movements with the right eye, taking the right eye left and right. And at the same time, begin to take the right knee in and out. And see if you can coordinate the movement of the eye left and right with the timing of the knee going left and right. And what I want you to do is kind of using the same internal sense as you take your eye left and right to feel the sense of the shape of the eye socket, and you take the knee left and right, see if you can sense into the shape of the hip socket, how the head of the femur is moving within the hip socket, almost like you're mapping out the head of you're mapping out the acetabulum. Using the eye as a reference, that sort of cavity of the eye socket as a kind of reference to mapping out the cavity of the hip socket. So it's quite a subtle lesson. You need to kind of, give yourself a moment to tune into this. And obviously the direction that the eye is traveling left and right is a little different to the way that the head of the femur is moving within the acetabulum. But that's okay, as long as you're kind of getting some picture that there's a certain space and that the movement of the head of the femur is tracking that space or kind of exploring that space. Good. Okay. Take a little rest. Now, what I want you to do is swap over and begin to do the left side. So again, I want you to initially just close the eyes, take the left eye left and right, feel again into the eye socket, feel that sense of movement within the eye socket. As you take the eye left and right, it's like it's mapping out in some way the shape or the form of the eye socket, how the eye is moving within it. Once you've got that movement familiar with the eye, begin to take the knee left and right at the same time as you move the eye left and right. And the sense into that point where the head of the femur kind of joins into the acetabulum. Again, as I was saying at the beginning of the lesson, this is an incredibly important part of the body. All the weight that we carry from the torso, the head, the chest, the abdomen, the arms, comes down through the pelvis and is transferred into the legs through this one specific point. So it's really important that this particular point in the body is well organized to carry our weight. When it's not well organized, what you notice is a lot of other muscles have to kind of be enacted to hold us upright. So taking a bit of time to explore it is a really useful little project. So sorry, I was sidetracked. Taking your eye left and right at the same time as your left knee going left and right, and seeing if you can use the sort of the shape or the sense of the eye socket to map out the shape or the sense of the hip socket. Like, how does the head of the femur come into the acetabulum as you move the knee left and right? How does the head of the femur rotate within the acetabulum? Good. All right. So take a little rest. And there's a different rotation that we can do that's maybe a little bit more obvious than taking the knee left and right. Okay. So what I want you to do is just to begin to lift up your right leg a few times. In fact, actually put your right hand back on the area between your pelvis and your upper leg. And just lift your right leg a few times. As you lift your right leg completely off the ground, you can feel that there's a change in the space that your hand is covering. So now there's a different type of rotation happening within the hip socket. The head of the femur is rotating in a very different way than it was earlier. Good. And then take the left hand, place it on the left side, and just lift up the left knee a few times. Lift up the left knee a few times. Good. All right. So now close your eyes again and just make a few movements, taking your eyes, both eyes, towards the floor, down, and towards the ceiling, up. This is actually a plane that we didn't really explore at the beginning. So taking the eyes up towards the ceiling, taking the eyes down towards the floor, and just do that movement a few times, kind of tracking the movement with your eyes, exploring this kind of vertical plane, and seeing if you can get a different sense of the eye socket as you do that movement. Does that change the perception? Does it kind of increase the diameter, or no? Does it increase the dimensions? That's the word I was looking for. Okay, so now very gently, as you take the eyes up, and let's just concentrate on the right eye. As you take the right eye up, lift up the knee, lift up the foot. As you bring the eyes down, take the eyes down towards the floor, okay? It can be both eyes. It's obviously going to be both eyes, but your focus is a little bit more on the right eye. And as you take the eyes up and you take the eyes down, see if you can sense the rotation in the eye socket, the eye in the eye socket, and the rotation of the head of the femur within the hip socket. Again, they're slightly different to each other. They're not exactly the same because they're not in the same position, but it's similar in terms of the way that the movement is organized. Your eyes are going up, your eyes are going down, and the femur is kind of rotating up. The head of the femur is rotating up and rotating down within the hip socket. Good. Once you've done it a few times with your right leg, swap over, concentrate or focus a little on your left eye. Take the eye up and down. And begin to lift the left leg as you look up. And drop the left leg as you look down. Drop, I mean put down gently. So as you do this movement, feeling the eyes moving within the eye socket, tracking the space, the shape of the eye socket, and at the same time having some sense of the movement of the head of the femur kind of informing or giving you some sense of the shape or the dimensions of the hip socket. Maybe it takes you a bit of time to coordinate the eye movement with the leg movement and kind of settle into it enough so that you can kind of really track the sense of the movement and how it informs the space around it. So it's kind of an awareness-based lesson. There's not a lot of kind of movement, or it's not a very dynamic movement. But maybe you can feel in yourself as you take a rest, kind of how you're sitting and how you feel. Firstly, your eyes are organized, and secondly, how you feel that your pelvis and your legs are organized. Just take a little rest. Just rest and breathe. And kind of, what awareness, what sense of awareness, developed awareness do you feel in that area of the hip socket now? How does it feel? Sometimes I would describe lessons like this as kind of like bringing something from like an old school TV set into high definition, so you've got a different sense or a different kind of impression of the thing that you're looking at or working with. Good. So just a few times, and you can just close the eyes. Just a few times, take both knees, left and right. You can take them out together and in together. So they both go out and they both go in, and just feel into that space of the hip socket. You can rest the eyes. You don't need to move the eyes now, but just feel into the space of the hip socket and see if you can just kind of use your attention in that area as you take the knees out and in, just to feel the sense of the head of the femur rotating in the acetabulum or hip socket. Good. And then when you've done that a few times, very gently, just begin to lift one leg and then rest it, lift the other leg and rest it. And again, kind of feel into it. It doesn't need to be a big lift. It can be very small, just enough to kind of feel that there's some sense of rotation happening with the head of the femur. And you very gently just begin to do that movement and feel into the sense of the movement and how it informs the space around it. Good. All right. If you want, just circle your knee. Circle your knee. So I'm not really sure I can demonstrate this, but if you keep, for example, if you keep your toes on the ground and you take your knee in a circle so that the heel lifts away from the ground, the heel lifts away from the ground, and the knee just kind of lifts and lowers round in a circle. And again, see if you can kind of like, it's a more dynamic movement, so it might be harder to track, but see if you can feel into the hip socket. If you want to use your right hand to kind of feel that area, how the hip socket is changing, moving. Good. And then rest the right leg. Lift up the heel of the left leg and just make that circular movement with the left knee now. And just see if you can kind of take your attention internally to that hip socket and how this movement of the leg is informing the space or the shape of the hip socket. Try it in both directions if you haven't already. Okay. So that's an exploration of the hip socket. I hope that was interesting for you. If you want to just write in the comments any experiences you had, what you liked. Also, if you like the lesson and you think other people would enjoy it, you can share it via my Facebook page. You can't share it if you're watching it within the Facebook group because that's private, but you can share it via the page. Also, today I did include a link to my YouTube channel. There's a bit of me that doesn't really like kind of pushing people to look at certain things. However, my YouTube channel has 54 subscribers at the moment. And if I get 100 subscribers, I can change the URL to a custom one. So I would really appreciate that because it makes it a lot easier to advertise it rather than just having a string of random letters at the end of it. So if you want to share it with anyone, please go to my YouTube channel, share it to any friend. If they want to subscribe, that would be great. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a lovely day exploring your hip sockets further as you walk around. And maybe as you get up from the lesson, just take it into walking, just for a few minutes, just take the movement into walking. As you walk around, can you keep some awareness of this sense of movement and how it informs the space of the hip socket? Great. Thank you again. Thank you for watching. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's lesson is going to be a breathing lesson. So if anyone's really up for a breathing lesson, please come along. I am kind of following a theme this week, and hopefully by the end of the week, kind of bringing it all together as I did last week. So I hope you've been enjoying the lessons, and I will see you back here at 11 tomorrow. Okay, take care. Bye.